What are the different types or modes of instruction, and do they make a difference in how much students learn? Let's talk about it on today's Pop-Up Practice. There are three modes of instruction: in-person, remote, and hybrid or blended. The timing of the instruction can be either synchronous or asynchronous. Synchronous instruction is instruction that happens live. Some common examples include a broadcast lesson like a YouTube Live, Zoom, Teams or a Google Meet, or even a TikTok Live, a teleconference discussion, or face-to-face instruction. In contrast, asynchronous instruction is instruction that happens at different times. This could be a virtual self-paced module completed online using a learning management system like Schoology, Canvas, or Blackboard, or embedded in a website, a reading assignment, or viewing a recorded lesson. Watching this video is an example of asynchronous instruction. In-person instruction is the traditional mode of education where learning takes place face-to-face. Teachers and students are physically in the same room at the same time. In-person instruction is always synchronous. With remote instruction, students engage in all learning without physically being in the school. Remote learning is often virtual, but can also include pickup or drop-off, postal correspondence, phone calls, and broadcast components such as TV or radio. Remote instruction can be synchronous, like with a live broadcast, or asynchronous, such as with a self-paced modular course. Blended or hybrid instruction is a combination of in-person and remote learning where students receive a mix of both. This might look like physically attending school for part of the day or part of the week and receiving instruction remotely the rest of the time. A common example in AEDY programs is for students to receive instruction remotely through an online learning platform and also be provided with in-person teacher support from a district or program teacher. Hybrid instruction is synchronous when in person, while the remote component can be either synchronous or asynchronous. This makes blended and hybrid learning a very flexible option that can help with scheduling issues. So with all these options for types of instruction, which one is best for students and teachers? The short answer is, it depends. In support of the longer answer, our best source of information is the USDE meta-analysis revised in 2010. Though this seems dated when we consider the amount of online learning during the pandemic, it's still the best resource for evidence-based analysis. It's important to note, however, that the results should be taken with a grain of salt due to the lack of rigorous K-12 studies in this area. Citations and links to additional studies are available in the description below. Here are some key findings from the USDE meta-analysis. Students in online conditions performed modestly better, on average, than those learning the same material through traditional face-to-face instruction. Instruction combining online and face-to-face elements had a larger advantage relative to purely face-to-face instruction than did purely online instruction. That is to say, blended instruction had a bigger advantage than online-only instruction when they were compared to in-person instruction. Blended instruction is looked at further in the more recent meta-analysis from Lee, Yu, and Yang, a quick read which I highly recommend to anyone planning to use a blended approach. Effect sizes were larger for studies in which the online instruction was collaborative or instructor-directed than in those studies where online learners worked independently. This is also supported by the blended instruction meta-analysis. The USDE also found that most of the variations in the way in which different studies implemented online learning did not affect student learning outcomes significantly. The effectiveness of online learning approaches appears quite broad across different content and learner types. And effect sizes were larger for studies in which the online and face-to-face conditions varied in terms of curriculum materials and aspects of instructional approach in addition to the medium of the instruction. More simply put, we don't have enough evidence to say that one mode of instruction is more effective than another when it comes to in-person, online, and blended learning. So if that's the case, then what can we say? Here are some things that we know make a difference. Teacher pedagogical beliefs and comfort with the technology. For example, if a teacher is struggling to record and post a video, chances are they're not going to feel confident teaching an online or blended course. Be sure that teachers have access to training resources and someone they can ask for help. Teachers should also be given time to explore their new tools and collaborate on how features can be used. Pedagogical practices and lesson planning. How teachers teach makes an enormous impact on learning. For example, that meta-analysis on blended learning from Li, Yu, and Yang found that task-driven learning, role-playing, inquiry-based instruction, and case-based instruction had substantial effects on student learning in a blended environment, as did using a combination of synchronous and asynchronous environments. Student perception of online learning and engagement with the materials. When students are engaged, they learn. Check out Season 1 of Pop-Up Practices for suggestions on student engagement. What it comes down to is this: technology does not cause learning. Pedagogy does. So yes, do your research and use evidence-based best practices in your instruction, but remember that student learning all comes down to how you teach, not the technology you use. Thanks for joining me on today's Pop-Up Practice, where practice makes progress. Be sure to check out the Pop-Up Practices playlist for more.